Hello again, StrugCorp. Today I've got a new video mini guide for Magic Legends where I'm going to talk about spells and what spells are worth upgrading, what spells I think as a new player you might want to keep upgrading if you wanna spend your mana wisely. Maybe that video would help you. I'm gonna start with white, then blue, black, red and then green. And I would be focusing on nuke sorceries, but I will also mention some creatures and some utility spells, and I would be switching between my game and my browser, because with some of the cards I don't have those cards and I would have to show you the cards from a website called mlarpg.com. Very good site. Maybe it's time to give the site an advertisement for free. If you need a good site, that's a site where you can build decks and whatsoever you're gonna see in a moment. So let's start with white. Without further ado, I will mention my favorite white spells for damage. Heavenly Assault is amazing, and so is Phalanx Charge, especially if you pair it with a crowd control spell. And something that's not bad is Radiant Volley, but it's very thin, but it also reaches very far, so it's not so bad. The things I didn't like as much for damage were Divine Wrath, but it's good stun, and Revenge, but this one is very small areas, so you really need to be very good with aiming, and I'm not a fan of Revenge, but if you make a build where you expect to go down in HP, it's not a bad one. Now, another thing worth mentioning is Judgment, a great spell for healing and damage to nearby enemies. It doesn't do as much damage as, per se, Heavenly Assault. At the same rank you can see this is less than half of that, but it's still pretty nice. Then you have things like Phalanx Charge. As I mentioned, pretty strong extra damage extra damage when the enemies are affected by crowd control. You can combine it with Radiant Volley that stuns. Then there's Aura of Salvation, great healing there, amazing spell. Then if we talk about creatures, Angel of Vengeance is nuke on summon, amazing. I'm not a fan of creatures, but still, a Light Piercer Angel, another pretty decent. When you level her up, she deals a lot of damage with her special ability, so it's pretty decent. Things that if you build a creature build you might want to try: the Veteran Bodyguard, which I'm gonna have to show you from the website. The Veteran Bodyguard, where did it go? Veteran Bodyguard. And the game's actually going under maintenance in 50 minutes, so I'm gonna try to be quick with this video. Unfortunately I wanted to make more videos, but I always keep making the maintenance in the worst possible time when I really need to be recording stuff in the game. So yeah, this is just a moment. I'm gonna show you in the browser certain things. So this is the Veteran Bodyguard. You're gonna see what he does. He's good for your survivability. Any damage you take is prevented and dealt to this creature instead, and you could combine this with some healing skills. Now let's talk about some other things. I've made a list here. What am I missing? Victory of Death. It's a so-so skill. Let's find it here. So yeah, it's not a bad spell, but I don't like it as much, to be honest. Next we're gonna move on to blue, and I'm gonna go back to the game and talk about my blue stuff. So we've got things like Phantasmagoria, one of the best spells in my opinion, it's amazing. Then there's things like Telestrike, which I'm gonna show you from the website. Telestrike, one of my other favorite spells, Telestrike. Let's try and find it for you here. Pair that with crowd control, with control spells such as Tidal Wave or Icy River, and it's great. And speaking of Tidal Wave and Icy River, let's show you those as well. This is Tidal Wave. It is a very wide spell. It may not do damage much, although it does do damage, and it's not so bad. But it also applies Lesser Snare for 10 seconds to fall within it, and that triggers things like Telestrike or Psionic Shatters, extra additional damage. Now Icy River, again, it has snare, lesser snare to enemies inside it. It lasts for 5 seconds, and it's also a bit of a mobility. So I really like that one. Now, if we go into Magnetic Pulse, it's an amazing spell as well, worth leveling. Another thing, did I mention Icicle? Icicle? Where's Icicle? Icicle, another great spell. I love using it. It's pretty decent. Now, if you want a speed casting setup, you might want to consider certain things. By the way, Tornado is also a good nuke plus crowd control. I love this spell as well. So there's things like Concentrate. There's things like Tuarian Winds. Then there's also things like where were they? I saw some good stuff here. Spellstorm and Thought Cadence. This is more for a very specific build, and it would require a lot of synergies, a lot of specific cards in your deck, where you're casting as many sorceries as you can, and you're drawing as many spells as you can, and you're gonna need some mana regeneration, so maybe blue and green might be the better way. Or there's also some stuff for blue and red. For blue and red, you can combine Dominate and Mass Manipulation with a red spell called what was the name? Something about treachery or Act of Treason. Act of Treason. So let me go back into the game. Back into the game we go. To see if I missed any blue stuff. I don't think I've missed any blue stuff I wanted to talk about. So Psionic Shatter is definitely, as I mentioned, a decent spell worth investing in. Now let's go black. Let's go black. Desecrate is a nice spell, amazing spell actually. Infest is also pretty decent. And there's another one called Abyssal Flames. And Abyssal Flames I have to show you from the website again. Abyssal Flame, not Flames Flame, Abyssal Flame. A great spell, does extra damage to enemies under 50%, worth taking to the max level. Then I've made a list of some other things worth getting, such as, I talked about Desecrate, Infest, Abyssal Flame, but there's Parasitic Infection and Leech Outbreak. Parasitic Infection is to apply vulnerability. Does damage over time. The vulnerability is amazing because it increases the damage the enemies take. Then there's Leech Outbreak if you want some healing, and it does damage at the same time. Then other things I mentioned, Shadow Barrage. I saw something called Shadow Barrage. I've never seen it, but the description of that skill has me intrigued. And I would say it might be very good for some builds because it's a hazard that deals damage to a random target 4 times per second. For 12 seconds, so I think it's gonna be amazing. And if it kills a foe, the duration is extended to an additional second, so that's a great one in my opinion. Now let's move on to red. There's obviously other things, creature related things, but I'm not gonna talk too much about black creatures things, but you can make that big black deck with the Corpse Fiend and Voracious Trail. And that's the big creatures, the Abyssal Fiend as well, you can have those. Let's go to red. And talk about red stuff. I'm gonna go back to the game. I hope I have enough time to wrap up this video before the maintenance hits. And yeah, today again probably it's gonna be one video for the day because of the maintenance, and they just keep cockblocking me with those maintenances at the worst possible time. Next is Shock. Shock is pretty decent. Magma Burst is decent. Pyroclasm for certain builds, I'm gonna mention about that build with the Seismic Grasp and stuff. Shivan Dragon is amazing, so we need to show you something here as well. Lightning Strike, I think it was called. Lightning Strike, pretty decent spell as well. Keep that in mind. So let's go back to the website to show you some red stuff there. The Shivan Dragon is the one thing I want to show you first. It's a summon, but it deals solid damage on summon. And it's super nice. Then there's Furnace of Wrath, which is a glass cannon spell. For 42 seconds at rank 1 you get greater might and greater vulnerability. So you take more damage, you do more damage. So there's something called Baiting Dragonfire. It's gonna be probably super overpowered when leveled up. It just was for 5 seconds, it does damage and it creates a hazard that does extra damage. Lava Vortex is one of my favorite spells. Lava Vortex, it deals damage over time, makes the enemies burning, and if the enemies are burning, you can use certain extra damage to burning spells. If I'm not mistaken, was it Magma Burst? That does the extra damage to burning, yeah. Then Seismic Grasp pulls the enemy, so if you want a Molten Shell does damage to nearby enemies, Seismic Grasp pulls them. Then you have things like Earthquake that does damage to nearby foes as long as you're channeling this. Then there's Fire Dance that does damage to a random nearby foe 4 times for 10 seconds. There's Active Treason, as I mentioned, good with other domination and stuff like that from the blue. Then there's Elemental Shatter, I really like it. Create a hazard at target location and taunt foes for 3 seconds and deal damage to nearby foes. Then yeah, there's a lot of good things. Not Fatal Frenzy though. There's Pyroclasm for builds where you want the enemies near you. There's a lot of good stuff, so Earth Spike is probably not that great, but it's still worth maybe spending some resources in while you're leveling. I'm not gonna talk about creature builds, maybe I can do some creature build related stuff later. But I like the Shivan Dragon, even on non-creature builds, is that it's like a Yukon Steel on cast. The Magma Colossus is nice because it shoots if there's no nearby enemies from afar. The Elemental seems to be strong, but again, creatures seem to be a bit more underwhelming unless you go all in on the synergies, and that's gonna require better gear and artifact synergies for the creatures. Whereas with sorceries, you don't need to go min-max to get the most out of it, just maximize, just level up the spell to as much as you can. Moving on to green, I'm gonna mention Rampage, top dog green spell. Rampage requires you to have creatures with greater or equal toughness and power. So if it's 5/5, it's gonna give you 10 towards this. So if you take the Green Warden, which is 7/7, that's 14. 7/7 from this, and then this one is 6/6, that's 12. So that's already 26. So if you combine Enormous Baywat and Green Warden with Rampage, you can do top dog damage. People are already reaching millions of damage with their pay-to-win maxed out spells. So it's gonna take you a while to max out your spells. It's gonna take a while, but eventually you're gonna max it out, and this spell would be amazing on a good walled out with good walled out score, and this would do a ton of damage. So Rampage together with Enormous Baywat and Green Warden. If you want damage for your creatures and stuff like that, Mighty Bellow is not bad. Then there was this another one that probably is not here, that gives you extra power to a random creature. Let's go from my list because I'm probably missing certain things. Choking Overgrowth and Stampede. Yes, let's look into those. Choking Overgrowth and Stampede. I love Choking Overgrowth, it's nice. It looks nice as well. Then there's Stampede, more damage over time. It's kind of a thin area, so you have to get used to properly placing it. What else is on my list? Amalgamate is actually very good. You gain 20% of your maximum health in shield for 8 seconds plus an additional 3% for each point of toughness your highest toughness creature has. So a creature with 7 toughness without any buffs would give you another 21%. So it's gonna be 41% of your HP in shield for 8 seconds. Solid. That's without any buffs on the creature. Imagine buffing your creature with things like Giant Growth and Mighty Bellow. That's another 6 and 3, although this 6 is spread in between. So let's say you have those two creatures, Green Warden and Baywat. Both of them would get +3/+3. So the Warden gets to 10. And this one gives the Warden another 3, so the Warden would be 13. 13, that's going to be 26% extra from Amalgamate. Oh no, not 26. 13 times 3%. So yeah, 39 extra percent shield. Focus is amazing. Focus is amazing. It's amazing. Prevents all combat damage for allies and foes. So you can't do damage to foes in the hazard, but you also can't take damage. So if there's no foes in the hazard and just you, it's fine. It's fine. If an enemy comes, it's okay. They're not gonna be able to at least damage you if they're melee enemies, but you're not gonna be taking damage. So there's that. So there's Rampant Growth. I love that spell. Mana Regeneration. There's Nourish. Good healing. Very good healing for the team. Boom of Life. Definitely solid healing for the team. Then there's Animalistic Fury. I think this would be pretty solid for some builds. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. And I'm not gonna talk too much about those because again they're making maintenance as I'm recording this, and it's gonna start anytime now. So hopefully this was helpful. I wish I could talk a little bit more, but that's already a 16-minute video, and I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. To get notified when I upload more content for this game or other games like this one, which would be Wooters of all varieties, isometric, third-person ARPGs, Wooter shooters and all sorts of Wooters like that, you could subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to not miss out on my content updates. And optionally, you can even join as a member of the Struck Club on YouTube as a channel member to get access to exclusive perks such as special emotes custom made by me, special badges custom made by me that represents how many months you have been a member for, as well as opt-in of editing tutorials that I can give for Photoshop, Adobe Premiere, as well as shout-outs and things like that. And I would like to use this part of the video to thank all my YouTube members and Twitch subscribers. Thank you for supporting the channel and keeping me going. Thank you also for watching this video, everyone. Keep it cool, Struck Club. Until next time, and goodbye.